Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to let you know our host will be joining us at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight's host is Alyssa Milano, so we are glad to interrupt your current press briefing at this time to make your life a lot better for America. So thank you for being a Democrat. No matter who you vote for, we are all voting blue in 2020. So help us. Come join us at miadmason.us and support us with our coalition, No Dem Left Behind. Have a great time. We will be back with you soon. I'm Ian Mason. I'm running for Congress. Our voters are at the helm in 2020 because our education has failed us. Our infrastructure has failed us. If you're driving force, we can fix that, especially in our healthcare, because your vote actually matters and you have the choice in 2020. I'm Ian Mason and I approve this message. I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate. I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern. Well, good evening there. We are about to start here at 8 p.m. We're going to be just taking about 5 minutes to kind of interrupt somebody's press brief because we have our host, Alyssa Milano, coming in. We are waiting for that to come up. As you can see, we are basically kind of waiting for that to happen right now. So in that, we will get that all squared away for us and bring you more of what is needed with our coalition, No Dem Left Behind. So in this, the president outlined what the 4 phases are. So most of us are still going to be in lockdown. Just wanted to let you know that we should continue doing exactly what we have been doing. Do not expect these phases to just be Monday, then Friday, then next Tuesday, next Friday, for us to just cycle through them. We have to make sure that people get released from isolation and that the tests that are done out there are completed. And those people have to stay home. It is important for them to stay home. So it's for the individuals to make sure that you still telework. The essential employees still are going to be working. The employers may have certain people return to work, but those break areas and everything else will be closed off. For instance, a lot of people that are in IT departments are still working. They go in, take care of the servers so that we can continue to telework. So that is super important. We'll break back in a little bit to let everybody know exactly what's going on. But in the meantime, the most important thing I can honestly say is to help us send the mail. It's been the biggest thing that's been going on. When you donate to us at miadmason.com/postage, $35 goes a long ways. It represents about 100 voters. We got about 45 days left before we actually begin the campaign again. For the general election, and hopefully we can do that in person. I've been out there canvassing day in and day out to make sure that our voters know. But now you can be voting by mail with limited voting at home. So with that, thank you. We will be back soon with our host tonight. Talk to you then. Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate. I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic. Good evening, everybody. We will be starting very soon. Hopefully you are here to join us. Have a wonderful evening. We'll be looking forward to talking to you very shortly. I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress. Our voters are at the helm in 2020 because our education has failed us. Our infrastructure has failed us. With your driving force, we can fix that, especially in our healthcare, because your vote actually matters and you have the choice in 2020. I'm Mia Mason, and I approve this message.
I'm going to bring this into her. Hold on 1 second.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate. Good evening, everybody. We are going to be live here shortly in 3 minutes with our guests and our hosts tonight. See you then. I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in our live town hall. My name is Rachel Epler. I'm the political coordinator at No Dem Left Behind. No Dem Left Behind is a grassroots coalition dedicated to getting folks who are running in red districts, Democrats running in red districts, into Congress. We are so excited that Alyssa decided to host our town hall for us tonight, and we're really excited to take your questions. You can see there's an option for you to ask questions to us. So if you have any specific things you'd like us to discuss, feel free to put those in the question area. Alyssa, do you want to do introductions?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I hope that you are all staying safe and healthy. I know this is a super scary time and it's overwhelming, and well, there's just so much that's happening. It's hard to keep up, but I want to make sure that you are in the know about this because it's so very important to our democracy and our public safety. So right now, the pandemic is putting our voting system at risk. And so people are being forced to choose between their safety and their right to vote, just like we saw in Wisconsin this month. And well, our elected officials, I don't know, I think that they need to step up and protect public health and the integrity of our elections, by just offering safe ways to vote in November. The fact is that politicians have been chipping away basically at voting rights for years, especially those of people of color and young people. And it's pretty clear that they'll take any excuse to attack our voting. So we need to defend our democracy right now. And sometimes that's a full contact sport, so that they can't silence any of us. And it's super important. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. This is a great way to get to know some of the candidates that are running across the country, and that you can maybe help, whether that be donating to their campaign, or just amplifying who they are, following them on social media. So I'm proud really to support Let America Vote's Safe Democracy Again campaign. And obviously with that, we need your voice, so that you can take action right now. And please help us by sending a message to your elected officials through the Let America Votes campaign. And it's really quick and really easy to do. You want to go to safedemocracy.org. Please write that down, share with all your friends, safedemocracy.org. And now I'm going to introduce our amazing candidates. Thanks for bearing with me there, everyone. So we have Devin Handy, who's the 9th district in Georgia. Yay! I love Georgia. I shot Insatiable there. Such an amazing, amazing place. And then we have Jamie Cheek from Utah 01. Hi, Jamie. Thank you so much for joining me and everyone. We have Michael Moscato, Italian.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Arizona 8. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Natalie Klein. Hi, Natalie. Where are you from? West Virginia 01.
Yes, West Virginia.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all so much. And for those that are checking in at home, we need you to ask some questions that we could ask our amazing panelists, but I'll just, I'll get things started now. Maybe, Natalie, maybe we can start with you, Natalie Klein from West Virginia 1. And you are using your background in graphics to develop TPE and distribute it to first responders all across West Virginia, which is amazing. Thank you for doing that. So how has your campaign helped first responders?
So we ended up creating a branch of the Open Source Coronavirus Medical Supplies Global Facebook group. We created a local branch of that group for Northern West Virginia, basically to help find ways that we can open source our distribution for medical supplies and get those in the hands of first responders, medical professionals, and those in need. The group, the original global group of 3D printers, engineers, medical professionals, joined forces to design and share PPE that has been specifically designed to combat COVID-19. And their membership is now at about 72,000 people across the globe. Our local branch now has about 75 members, and we have really worked hard to make our group a non-political group so that everyone feels comfortable coming in and sharing designs and helping to distribute these designs across the state.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for doing
Next year.
that. So there's a question here from a viewer, and it says, how do I get a blue candidate's name out in a red district when our small business is consuming her time? This one is actually from Michael.
Well, that's a great question. As a small business owner, I know that we've had to make some changes here regarding the campaign. We've pivoted to using our resources to get involved with the community. We have a large senior community here who's very reliant on help. We have a lot of people who are already struggling to get by, that this situation has added more complexity and more obstacles for them to survive. So I've taken our large volunteer base, and I created my own task force, seeing as how that seems to be the popular words these days. And we've actually started using our team to deliver things like prescription medications. We can go pick those up from the pharmacies if they need that. We work alongside with the local food banks. We deliver food for the families, and we can even go pick up groceries for those who, we don't want seniors going to grocery stores and coming into contact. We want as little of that as possible for the most vulnerable people, and that's what we've used our time to do. I'm sitting here doing this interview in a business that's been closed for a month, so it's nothing but empty space. So I'm trying to do whatever I can as a business owner to help out the community during this time of need.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. I'm going to stay with Michael, and I'm just going to ask a question of all of you, and I'll call out who to answer next. But Michael, let's stay with you, and I just want your thoughts on healthcare in general.
Well, healthcare is the most important issue in the world right now. And it's been that way here in the United States for as long as I've been alive. I'm 36 years old. I'm born and raised in this district that I'm running for United States Congress. It's a district that is heavily senior-based, but also now we're seeing a drastic change in demographics to young families like myself, where health insurance is a huge portion of what we're paying per month. We have everybody, the second you're born, you have a pre-existing condition. It's called life. And what we're seeing now, amplified exponentially, is ineffective leadership and a poor healthcare system that's dysfunctional, not only in the way that it's priced, but in the way that it functions and doesn't function. We're now in a situation where people are losing jobs, they're losing their insurance. They didn't have insurance before. Their insurance was only covering some of this and not some of that. It's a situation that involves a total overhaul. I've put together a plan that allows people to keep their private insurance if they want it, even though I don't know a lot of people that like their insurance right now. But 100% coverage is important. We need to get away from this idea that insurance is the focus. It's coverage. We need coverage. We need coverage for women. We need coverage for medications. We need coverage for maternity. We need coverage for going to the doctor. We can do this, but it requires replacing the people who continue to be funded by lobbyists that work for the prescription drug companies, that work for the insurance companies. And the health insurance, the health coverage issue is the most important issue in our nation and across the world today.
Thank you, Michael. Let's go to you, Natalie. Just discuss a little bit for the voters. What are your views on healthcare?
Healthcare is my passion in this race. We are sitting in the epicenter of the opioid epidemic here in West Virginia. And combine that with the last 6 months, we have had 4 medical facilities in this district alone close. All 4 of them were owned by the same company who purchased them, stripped them for profits, and then hid behind corporate loopholes. One of those hospitals, Fairmont Regional Medical Center, was the only hospital in Marion County alone. And not only did they close, but they closed early, cowardly, right when the coronavirus was hitting West Virginia. So this is near and dear to my heart. It's what keeps me going in this race. And early on in our campaign, we decided that we were not going to go to Washington without policy in hand. Lots of policies in hand, actually. But one of our policy proposals we are calling the Family Reinvestment Act. And what the Family Reinvestment Act will do is it will make sure that instead of closing our hospitals, we're going to get federal funding for communities that qualify. Much like FEMA, it's going to be an emergency relief service for medical and social issues. So it'll help build rehabilitation centers. It'll help build mental health facilities and food banks. But most importantly, what the Family Reinvestment Act will do is it will make sure that our public schools have mental health programs, more school nurses, social workers, and counselors, and food banks within the schools. Because what we keep seeing is, for some of our students, or actually many of our students, our schools is the only stable environment that they have. And that might be the only place that they get to see a counselor or a medical professional. So that is our passion in this race.
Amazing. Jamie, hi. Want to
Hello.
give everyone your views on healthcare?
Yeah, and in discussions like this, we often talk about how healthcare is a right, and it absolutely is a right. But I'm more concerned about making access to healthcare a reality. So what does that look like? Well, it means that right now, as 20 million people have lost their jobs in the past 4 weeks, Congress must use the legislative tools at their disposal to provide Americans with immediate relief. Congress has to pass the Take Responsibility for Families and Workers Act to provide states with additional funding for Medicaid expansion and relax federal eligibility requirements. It needs to create an emergency open enrollment period under the Affordable Care Act and allow every American the opportunity to sign up for marketplace insurance without a qualifying circumstance. Expand federal subsidies for the ACA plans to make sure coverage is more affordable, and require insurance companies to fully cover not only the testing for COVID-19, but full treatment as well.
Thank you, Jamie. And Devin, why don't you give us your overview on healthcare, and then I have a specific question for you as well.
All right. Well, my overview on healthcare is that it should absolutely be universal. We need to move to universal healthcare and move away from job-based healthcare. It hasn't worked efficiently as it should in decades, and we're seeing right now that with this, with the coronavirus, with the COVID-19 scare, people losing their jobs, companies and small businesses not being able to stay open. When they lose their jobs, they lose their healthcare. And so anything that happens, even though it may not be COVID-19, anything that happens between now and when they get their jobs back, they're not covered. How are they supposed to pay for the healthcare? So we do need to move to a universal healthcare with an opt-out option. That opt-out option should be there for those who feel that the universal healthcare is not for them, and that's fine. I have a feeling that most people who do that will be coming right back to the universal healthcare anyway, because simply, maybe not because of coverage or quality, but because of price. Because the price of private healthcare, private insurance will go up. It will go up. It will become more competitive. So the overall, universal healthcare is the way to go.
And Devin, I have a question for you. It's from one of our viewers. What is the key differences between the ACA and Medicare for All? This person is a veteran, so my insurance is free, but what is the right path for healthcare for people who can't afford it? And you're a veteran, right, Devin?
Yes, I am.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. Yes, so the pathway to healthcare. So, all right, when I was a kid, my father was in the military. So I was a military dependent, never had to worry about healthcare. I'm a kid. As a young adult, I joined the military straight out of high school, so my healthcare was covered. Never had to worry about it. Now, as a disabled retired veteran, my healthcare is covered through the VA, so I don't have to worry about healthcare. Now, yes, I served my country I deployed. I volunteered for, to place my life in harm's way. And that makes me a very proud American, but it still does not make me any more American than every other American, regardless of whether or not they served. So having healthcare, not having to worry about healthcare, not having to choose between your next meal and receiving healthcare is imperative.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to me that that's the world we live in this country.
Can I add to that, Alyssa?
Yes, please go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, so out here, one of the big issues that a lot of veterans have expressed to me is that it's great to have access to the VA, but what happens if you live 2 hours away from a VA? Why should a veteran who has served their country, who has potentially had damage done to their body physically or mentally, why should they not be able to access an out-of-network provider? I hear too often that they need to wait 6 weeks for care or 8 weeks for care. That's unacceptable. We didn't say, hold on a second, don't take the bullet for us, wait a while. No, we said, thank you for your service. But then when our veterans come back home, it's nothing but having to jump through hoops. And again, it goes back to replacing the people in office to get this done. But we need people who are going to fight for the veterans like Devin, so that their access to healthcare is immediate, that they're not waiting for this. And we can do that generally, to his point, for everyone. You shouldn't have to wait 8 weeks to know whether or not you have a cancer diagnosis. You shouldn't have to wait, in line to be cared for. We have the ability as the leader of the world to take care of this situation for everyone, whether they're a veteran or not, but especially for veterans and first responders having to fight for their healthcare coverage in the media when they get diagnosed with cancer after fighting fires for 15 years. It's unacceptable. It's not American, and we deserve better than that.
We definitely need to take better care of our veterans. And the rural hospital thing is an issue, I think, throughout the country, even for those that aren't veterans. Where a lot of rural hospitals are shutting down across the country. So it makes it very difficult for people to get immediate care. So I want to talk a little bit about, it's Earth Day on Monday. And so, Jamie, I wanted to ask you in particular, because I know that you're a big opposer of fossil fuels and a big supporter of the environment and figuring out how to translate that into policy. So, although rural communities are a greater risk than most from climate change, they most often leave out rural communities from this discussion and budgetary support for climate change. So as someone who would represent a rural district, what would you do to make sure that these communities are not left behind?
Absolutely. So first, we need to make it clear that our planet is facing a climate crisis. And I will be representing a rural district in Congress. We cover 10 counties and about 25% of the surface area of the state of Utah. But still, as a rural district, it encompasses 2 of the top 20 polluted cities in the United States. And every winter, for days at a time here, our children are forced indoors for recess, and those with asthma or other respiratory conditions can't leave their homes because the air we're all forced to breathe becomes toxic. In Utah, poor air quality shortens our lives by an average of 2.3 years and increases the chance of miscarriages by 16%. And we can't accept that as a status quo. As a congresswoman, I would implement a policy agenda that will comprehensively address our climate crisis. Consider it a 3-legged stool, where all 3 legs must exist and work together. The first is mitigation, making the U.S. carbon neutral. The second is adaptation, managing future climate risks to reduce economic, environmental, and social costs. And the third is restoration, carbon removal and Arctic ice restoration. We have to do all of those in tandem to make a real difference and sort of move the planet forward and make it more sustainable.
I mean, during this pandemic, when, we're being hit by a virus that affects our respiratory system, it is, more important now than ever before that we do a better job at fixing our air quality. And I think that if anything, when we look back on this time and how really what a short amount of time it's taken us to get back to a place where the air is healthier, we have no excuse now not to really make sure that it stays like this. So I really appreciate that. Does anyone else have any thoughts on Earth Day on Monday and what your environmental policy would be for your community?
Absolutely. We were proud to receive the endorsement of the Sierra Club earlier on this year. And here in Arizona, it's no secret that we have a lot of sunshine. And thanks to the people who are currently in office, it still doesn't matter. And isn't it a real pain for these science deniers, what we've seen unfold across the world, not only just here in this country, with getting people off the roads and seeing our air quality clean up?
Yep.
It kind of dispels the myth that has been pushed for too long. And
that we can't do anything about it.
There, like you said, there is no excuse anymore. And out here in Arizona, I've put forth a very detailed plan to make us the nation's leader in solar energy production. From a national standpoint, we can do things like put together a climate task force made up of civilians, especially college students that are looking to avoid having to pay for their education in much the same way that we have a GI Bill for those that serve our country in the military. We can do the same thing here for the environment. And I've laid out in detail how we do it. Here in Arizona, it's a desert, so water is very important. So when we see big developers coming in, sucking up all of the water out of the aquifers,
right.
We have an agriculture issue where we're exporting a lot of crops that aren't native to this land. We're using way more water than we should. And it's coming very close to a time where water is the new gold, and not taking care of our environment is going to put us much in a situation like we're seeing with our health right now. It's going to put us in another pandemic situation where if we don't do what's necessary immediately, it'll be too late and we'll have to pay the price.
And Natalie, you're in coal country and are campaigning on bringing new jobs in alternative energy. I read in a press release that you have a plan to save jobs and save lives. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is a policy that we're proposing that will reestablish our energy authority. A lot of Appalachian districts and communities have significant experience mining fossil fuels, and we have been reliant on that for jobs as well. It presents a real problem when energy companies are not buying fossil fuels any longer. And it should be our representatives' responsibility to make sure that we have a diversified job market for these laborers. So what we would like to do is we would like to be able to incentivize some of the other alternative energy companies to be able to come into these types of communities across the nation and help bring jobs back to the people who are experts at producing energy. And our Congress has even worked to, pass similar legislation to help European countries do this. So I would like to know, why aren't we doing that here?
Right. I just went live on Twitter to make sure that you all get the visibility that you deserve here. Let's go. Is there anything specifically that you want to get out there about your campaigns that are maybe different than normal campaigns that we're seeing right now? Any of you?
Can I talk about my state briefly?
That's what this is all about, of course.
Right. Right now is, and I know a lot of people in West Virginia, if you're listening, you've heard this before from many candidates across the state, And the reason that you're hearing this from multiple candidates in West Virginia is because it is true. This is the wealthiest time in West Virginia's history, but all of our profits are being extracted, and they're going to out-of-state companies and foreign companies. We are losing 45 people every single day to other states. That is not 45 people who are passing away every day. That is 45 people who have given up on us to be able to provide jobs, education, and a quality of life. So they are turning their backs and leaving West Virginia in the dust. We must demand that our representatives work to make West Virginia a place where people can thrive.
Amen. That's a crazy stat. I didn't realize that. And wait, so can you, for those of us not from West Virginia, can you just back up and give us a little bit more detail on why that's happening?
We don't have any jobs. Most of our jobs are in, service industries, retail, restaurant. There are not a lot of professional level jobs. The quality of life here, depending on who you're talking to, is not always the best, but our representatives are not doing enough to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to thrive and bring themselves up. I don't know if you all saw one of our huge advocates in West Virginia. She got the opportunity to speak to Congress, and she literally had this line that went, viral, that I have brought myself up by my bootstraps so many times that they're broken.
Right.
And that was enough.
Well, and the thing about bootstraps is there actually has to be stores to buy boots, right?
Yeah,
I mean, right now this country is we're in a shortage of metaphoric bootstraps.
Yeah, we have an aging population here that is forced to work well past the average age of retirement. We have a population who is addicted to opioids, and we have to start fighting against the corporate interests that are really controlling the state and the corruption that is controlling the state.
Alyssa?
Yeah.
I would just like to let the listeners know, whether they're in Arizona or across the nation, because I have this, the saying that's always stuck with me is we all do better when we all do better. As I alluded to earlier, I'm 36 years old. I'm born and raised in this district, and I've never had a Democratic representative in my hometown for my entire life. And the woman that I'm running against has been my representative in both the state house and the state senate, and now as a congressional member for 1/3 of my entire life. So nearly my entire adult life, this person has been our representative. And what we see every day, whether it's Fox News or CNN or any of the media, is partisanship across the board. And we need to stop that. We need to get back to treating each other as Americans, because healthcare is not a partisan issue. Owning a gun is not exclusive to being a Republican. Being a Christian or other religion is not exclusive to one political party. Caring about people and our best interests. We Republicans and Democrats, we all have children. We all care about their futures. We all have health concerns. We all have needs. I'm a small business owner. My business has been closed down for a month. I've spent 7 years pouring my heart, soul, and personal financial security into a business that has been a ruin. And I haven't received a dime of assistance, whether it's personally or professionally. And my career as a video director with the major music artists across the country. And actually, Alyssa, I did a commercial with you a long time ago when I first started out in the industry. Yeah, it was when I worked in Los Angeles, but I can't even do that job. I'm one of millions of Americans who we own boots. We've been pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. We're not the type of people that are looking for handouts, but we are in a position now where, because of the lack of leadership and because of the lack of efficiency and effectiveness from our leaders, we're in a position of need from those leaders to do their job. And it's not a Republican or a Democratic thing. It's get the job done. You're there in office, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're there to work with the other side of the aisle to do what's in our best interests. And for my entire life here in Arizona, that hasn't happened. And that's why, if you can see the sign in the background, our slogan has always been, our hometown is always worth fighting for, and where you come from means something to me. And that's why I'm taking part of a historic campaign. And just recently we had some polling done in the county that gave Donald Trump more votes than any other county in the country. That's my hometown. He's now losing by 9 points. We have a Senate candidate in Mark Kelly who's leading the Senate, Martha McSally, by nearly double digits or more. Our own internal polling showed that it's a coin toss in a district that was nearly flipped in 2018 by a great candidate in Harold Tipernini. And I'm now here to finish the job as someone who's born and raised. And as I say, this campaign is forged from the failed policies of my opponent and the Republican Party that has ruled over my hometown my entire life.
That's amazing, Michael. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about the issues we're not talking about anymore because of the pandemic, but that will always remain super important, and issues that affect us all, but really, I think, speak more to the youth vote. I want to talk a little bit about how we make college more affordable, what we do with college debt, and also gun violence. So why don't we start with Devin?
Okay. Well, as far as student loans go, I am definitely on board with going from K through 12 to K through 16 being funded. I don't believe that we teach our children from young ages, you can grow up to be anything you want to be. And then when they go to college, and they have these big dreams to go to college, and they get accepted to college, some can't make it to college, so they work through college. They can't, they don't get a scholarship. So they're working through college, and they get these $80,000, $120,000 college loans. And then they graduate and they can't get a job because, yes, they have a college degree, but they don't have any experience. And so now we set them up to start their young adult lives $100,000 in debt automatically, with no credit history, no way to really, nothing to really look forward to. And if we could give our children, and they are still our children at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old.
Of course.
We need to show them that, hey, we believe in you. This is America. Having them, just like so many other things, college has been monetized in the worst possible way. And that has left so many of us in debt. And that is a terrible way to start out your life. That's a terrible way to go through life. And so I just feel that
it's also a way to completely kill any sort of hope or dream that a young person would have. And I don't think there's anything more important than hope, especially right now.
Yes, and how many young adults have the genius to create, life-saving antidotes or the next technology, and we will never know because they never had that chance, because they couldn't get out from under debt, from under school debt.
And how about gun violence?
Gun violence, that's a big one. So one of my opponents here in District 9, he decided he wanted to grab his AR-15 and do a video with his newly adopted gun organization, and talk about looting hordes from Atlanta, and not even touching on the dog whistle that is it's inciting violence. We've had enough violence in this country to last us centuries. And so having someone like that who wants to represent a group of Americans in Washington, D.C., you know, we don't need someone who is going to incite violence at all, especially in that way, toting his AR-15, which can, you know, cause mass casualty. It's just ridiculous. So gun violence. Another thing is that we cannot expect our teachers to carry weapons in the classrooms. We cannot do that. Our teachers, there are so many things that's wrong with that. Physical security of the weapon. What if a student gets a hold of that weapon? And then also, when something is happening, when there is a shooter in a school and you have the authorities show up, how are they supposed to distinguish between the shooter and the teacher if they both have a gun? There are so many things that are wrong with that picture. We have to think about that before we move forward.
I just want to talk to the Twitter people that are on with us right now. This is a town hall with candidates throughout the country. I'll post all of their Twitter handles after we're all done. So please look for that. And please follow them on Twitter and help amplify their voices. And thanks for tuning in right now. Jamie, do you want
Alyssa, I'm sorry, just one quick thing about guns. Democrats are not, I am not out to take anyone's gun. Like Michael alluded to earlier, Republicans are not the only gun owners. I am a gun owner. I am a responsible gun owner. I was trained to handle safely weapons. Not everyone is. So I'm not out to take anyone's guns. I just feel that it is our responsibility to ensure that those who own guns are responsible gun owners.
Yeah, I think that is a messaging point that the NRA and the Republicans have done a really good job with, making it seem like Democrats all want to take away everyone's guns. Just not true. We just want it to be more difficult for people that shouldn't have guns to be able to get them. We want everyone to be safe. Universal background check. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, and it's, in my opinion, not anything that we shouldn't be asking for. Jamie, how about you? Is there, how do you feel about making college more affordable, student debt, and then gun violence?
Absolutely. So definitely education is a big piece of my platform, especially in a rural state. Also, my district covers 2 four-year universities. And so it's a big piece of what we talk about. And so we are on a bubble of student loan debt. It's the next mortgage crisis that's coming for all of us. And most of the people who have student loan debt are in some sort of forgiveness program anyway, right? Either public service forgiveness in 10 years, or they're on some sort of reduced payment plan that would also eventually forgive their student loan debt. So what we're proposing, and what we are certainly engaged with, is student loan forgiveness, because those monies are already going to be forgiven. And if we were to free up that payment that these youth are making, that's probably the biggest stimulus to the economy that we can have. As someone who has student loan debt, it's the biggest payment besides my mortgage that I make every single month. And so I think that forgiveness, especially in a world of COVID, where we're already, sort of waiving everybody's student loan payments for the next 6 months, I think we're going to see like a really big difference. And so we kind of get stuck in the messaging of, well, you took it, you should pay for it. But it's sort of, the system is broken, and it kind of puts that burden on the students rather than letting others, like the states and the federal government, kind of be able to make that education affordable. And so definitely, I think that we need to do something about student loan debt, and that we need to make college affordable, things like trade schools, four-year institutions, and give that access to everyone.
And how about gun violence?
Yeah, so I born and raised in Wyoming. My dad was a responsible gun owner. Every time he bought a new weapon, we took it out back and we shot it. And my dad let us ask questions because he was worried about that sort of curiosity of not knowing kind of the myth behind guns. And so he wanted us to be responsible and knowledgeable when we had those sort of items in the home. And so I think that in a rural red state, I agree with them. And we're not here to remove weapons. We are not here to eliminate, people's access. It's a question of, can we make it safer? Can we do things like locking your guns away so children don't find it, or, loading those weapons so that accidents happen? We see those every day. So I think there's responsible steps that we can take to gun ownership that is different than gun removal.
Michael?
Yes, ma'am. So in terms of education, I put forth a proposal for a tax credit for students. When you start out, those of us who've been through this process, we know that when you first come out of college, at that time, it's most important if you really want to get things started, if you want to open a small business. Now, I remember when I went to my bank and wanted to get a loan from my bank, thinking that that's how it would work, right? They would just say, "Oh, Michael, thanks for showing up. Here's your money to start your business," and that's not the case. You're going to fund it yourself. So at the time where we're trying to start our lives, we don't want to be starting our lives in $100,000 in debt. We don't want medical professionals. We're seeing what's happening between not being protected and then incurring hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. What message are we sending to our children about being healthcare professionals? We want to incentivize this. So I put forth a tax credit where it's 100% tax credit per what debt you take in, so that money you're putting back into the economy. So you're putting the burden. No, that money is still going to be taxed through things like buying goods and services, helping small business. It all will come back around. And then in terms of Republicans use to say the Democrats are trying to take, nobody's trying to take away anybody's guns. The NRA used to be an organization that actually educated people on how to use weapons, on gun safety. I used to go down to the shooting range not too far away from the house, and you could learn about how to shoot. You could learn about gun safety. It was a family kind of adventure. I have a brother who's in the military, and just because there are bad people out there doesn't mean also that all gun owners are bad. So there's a balance there. We need people who don't use guns to be educated, but we also need people who are responsible gun owners, like the people on this panel, to also support the fact that we can do better as gun owners, aside from just saying you're not taking away our guns. That's not actually possible based off of ratifying anything regarding this country. We're not going to get 38 states to do that. What we're asking for is something as simple as a background check. A background check is supported by 90% of this country. It doesn't take away your right to own a gun. But if you're not mentally healthy, then who wants you to have access to that weapon?
Right.
We need to have those discussions. And one of the reasons why those discussions don't happen is you look at people like my opponent and many others, I'm sure, who they get their campaigns funded by the NRA, by lobbyists for anti-gun legislation. And I sound like I'm repeating myself, but the only way you fix this situation is by replacing the people who are in office that are being funded by people who care more about the sale of ammunition and weapons than they do about our lives and our children.
Thank you, Michael. And Natalie?
As far as education goes, I'm a Gen Xer, and I know our generation was one of the first generations that was kind of like, hey, kids, congratulations on your high school degree. Now it's time to go to college. Look at these wonderful student loans you can take out. I myself have a ton of student loan debt. And I don't think that it was something that, our parents were saying maliciously for us to go and get these student loans and be paying on them for the next 10 plus years. But things are changing where it is now expected that everybody gets a college education. So if that is the case, then we need to work on finding ways to make that more affordable for people right out of high school, community college, four-year institutions, and a lot of our states are working for that. As far as guns go, I don't have a magical answer that's going to make everybody happy. I'm a supporter of the Constitution, and I also understand the value of guns for people in rural America. So in West Virginia specifically, like there are areas where there are long wait times for emergency responders to come in. And a large part of our population hunts for both sport and for food. So I'm not here to take anybody's guns away. That's not the case. So I echo the same sentiments that those who've answered before me do. We need to come up with some reasonable laws for people who have demonstrated their inability to be responsible gun owners. And one thing you need to understand about West Virginia is that we are the reason that this entire nation even has labor unions. And it was because back in the early 1900s, we actually fought a small war against the coal mine bosses. Shots were fired. And it was so that our coal miners were able to, they were willing to die in order to have fair treatment and a better quality of life. So this is also part of our identity. And that's why people, get very defensive and say, no, you're coming after my guns, you can't take my guns, because we don't want that to have to happen again. So I echo the same sentiments. We're not here to take away your guns, but some responsible measures do need to come in play.
And then I'm gonna just go around and for your closing statement, let's say, I want to ask you all this question, and please try to make your answer as brief and succinct as possible. Let's say that you're all elected into office. What is the first policy you would put forth on day one? Natalie, let's start with you, and then we'll go around.
The Family Reinvestment Act. Our district desperately needs to be able to take care of our families and our children who have been affected by the opioid epidemic. And we can no longer stand for our hospitals being closed left and right. We need to do something about that and make sure that everyone can get not only health care and access to health care, but also the treatment that they need so that we can get our lives back and so that our kids don't fall down the same traps that so many of their parents have.
Thank you, Natalie. Michael?
So healthcare is the theme that I started with, and it'll be the theme that I finished with. In a general sense, also, working to get everyone 100% coverage, but also specifically here to this district, protections for our first responders, whether they're firefighters or police officers, making sure that they don't have to continue to fight for their coverages, and just making sure that our seniors are being taken care of, and that families like myself can afford to cover their children and themselves to live healthy lives and be prosperous Americans.
Jamie?
Yeah, so in Utah, education is really important. And we actually spend the least amount of money per pupil in the entire United States. So my big focus would be on providing education to youth, but also looking to alleviate that student loan debt forgiveness to create a stimulus in the economy and provide opportunity for others.
And Devin?
So for me, I know you said the first thing that I would work on, it's actually threefold, because of course it would be healthcare. Of course, we have to make sure that our citizens get quality, affordable healthcare. But then also voters' rights. Voters' rights are very important. Without those, people like myself and Natalie and Michael and Jamie, we cannot get elected when there is gerrymandering going on, and there is voter suppression going on. And then lastly would be rural infrastructure, namely rural broadband. It is so, especially right now, it is so important that people are able to work from home if they can. And out here in District 9, a lot of people cannot. We only have one provider. They are not regulated. They can do whatever they want with the prices. And almost 30% of our district does not have rural broadband coverage.
And when kids are homeschooling right now, it's vital. Well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight, and good luck with everything. And if you need anything, please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alyssa.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Good luck. I'm just going to Twitter Live. We are going to have
I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate. I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office, and I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate.
Second round crew here.
Hey, okay, great. So thank you all for joining us. We have Cindy. Do you want to go through the same thing as we did before, Natalie, or should we? What do you want to do? Do you want to go through our intro and everything, or should we just forge ahead?
Rachel, on mute.
Oh, Rachel, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Natalie
Rachel,
was
what do you
helping
want to
facilitate too. She's one of our members.
Got it. That's yeah, because I see her name right here. Should we just jump in? What would you like to do? I can't hear you. Sorry.
Alan, your lighting looks fantastic.
Thank you so much.
It really does.
It does.
Okay,
Alan is very famous in Florida for having some of the best campaign photography around. It's enviable.
Is that a real thing, Alan?
I guess so. We had a
Amazing.
congressional correspondence dinner, and Cindy was one of the roasters, and it's one of the things she brought up and roasted me on. So she's always bothered me about that.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I rib him. I say he's running for Calvin Klein instead of Congress.
So let's just go around and have each of you introduce yourselves. Let's start with Mia. All right. Alan Ellison.
My name's Alan Ellison, running for United States Congress, District 17. My campaign is based on improving the quality of life for everyone, not just a select few. And I'm looking to replace one of the Corona 40. We have a congressman that actually voted against the coronavirus spending bill. And so we're going to make him a one-hit wonder and bring the country back together and do well by the people.
I like that. Thank you. And Cindy, how do you pronounce your last name?
Beignet. Hooray, hooray for Beignet.
Beignet, like beignets from New Orleans?
A little bit sweeter.
I like that. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Cindy Beignet. I am a candidate for Congress in Florida's 19th district. I'm a mom and small business owner, and I'm fighting for our water, our health, and our community.
Awesome. Well, let's start with Mia. Is it Mia or Maya? Mia. Mia, let's start with you. Why did you decide to run? Thank you for your service. Alan, why did you decide to run?
Well, you know, for me, it's akin to a calling. My gift is helping people, and I couldn't think of a better career path than to choose one that would allow me to write policy to help hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. So, you know, every day I'm helping people, whether it's building a website or cutting someone's hair or, you know, just doing some graphics, and it helps those individuals. And at the end of the day, the time that it took me to do that, I would much rather be spending that same time writing policy and making a bigger impact. So that's why.
And Cindy?
So I've worked with nonprofits and community organizations here for the past 11 years, doing a lot of community research, working with hundreds of people around our region. And I would write reports because I'm a little bit of a nerd. And I would take these reports to our leaders. And every year they would look at me and they say, oh, great, thanks for this report on education or immigration or whatever topic I was doing community research on. And they would pat me on the heads and say, thanks, and never do anything about it. So I realized that if I was going to really do right by the people in this community, they needed a leader that was ready and willing to listen to them. And so I'm running to be the true servant leader that the people of Southwest Florida deserve.
Cindy, let's stay with you for a second. Let's talk about Governor DeSantis, shall we?
Yeah, let's.
So I'm just wondering how you have utilized your local resources in your journey to get your name on the ballot, first of all, and how you've really been fighting against Governor DeSantis, and how that's affecting your campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. So as coronavirus was starting to hit Florida, we had this crazy situation where the local supervisors of elections offices were closed. And of course, we couldn't do petitions, campaigning, and fundraising became incredibly difficult. So our candidate petitions were due right, March 23rd, essentially. And the doors were closed. We couldn't get them in. And so I started to take up this cause with our governor. So I built a bipartisan coalition across the state of Florida that includes now 50 candidates, congressional candidates, state candidates, down to county commissioners who have been fighting for the past month to get Governor DeSantis to waive the qualification fees, or at the very least, extend the deadlines, reduce the amount of petitions, and reduce the qualification fees. The state of Florida already has the highest qualification fee in the country, particularly for Democrats, right? For congressional seats. It's the highest in the country. It's a barrier for grassroots candidates, candidates of color, working class candidates, and working moms like me to get on the ballot. And so we've brought this issue to the governor and the Secretary of State, and we have been fighting, and they made a very small change that doesn't help congressional candidates at all in particular. And now we're getting ready to take legal action. So buckle up, Governor DeSantis.
Amazing. Well, thank you for all that work.
My pleasure.
And Alan, I want to talk a little bit, because I know that you are, look, we not only have all of these races that are about to happen, but we're also trying to get Trump out of office. And I know, Alan, that you've really helped advance Biden's campaign. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, one of the things that we recently did was we elected to run as a delegate to the convention for Biden. And one of the reasons being is because in District 17, which is actually the largest congressional district in the state of Florida, it covers 9 counties, we haven't had a presidential candidate to come to the district and campaign in probably over 20 years. So this was really about making sure that people understand that there is a clear difference between what we have now and what we could have. And so I want to be able to bring Biden to the District of 17 to make sure that people understand that we have a gentleman that is intelligent, understands science, and has a true plan for how to go about tackling this COVID virus situation. And so, you know, we've been educating. I'm a political scientist, so I believe in educating people, making sure that voters understand how they truly line up with the issues instead of what they hear on the media. And so whenever people are better educated, they're going to usually make better choices. So we hold town hall meetings like this one every Tuesday to focus on the issues. And before the COVID situation hit, we used to go to at least 6 to 9 churches every Sunday talking about the campaign, as well as talking about what Biden could do in, you know, in the face of what Trump has done to dismantle our institutions, our country's social systems, and really just work to try to bring people back together to the center of these issues.
Mia, you know, obviously no one could have seen this coming, but I'm sure that you're campaigning in a totally different way. You know, not being able to door knock and, you know, meet people face to face for town halls. So can you just discuss a little bit on how you're campaigning during this crisis? Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, campaigning has completely changed. I wonder if we're ever going to go back to the, you know, door knocking. I'm trying to get this Twitter live to be. My phone won't stand up. Hold on 1 second. Right. Let's talk about how what's different in, I think the thing that people don't realize is even though Alan and Cindy are both running in Florida, every district is different, and what people care about in your district, Cindy, might be different than Alan's district. So can we just talk about a little bit about what the people in your district, what are the kitchen table issues in your district, Cindy?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, it's water. And actually, water is the unifying issue. We're a coastal community, so we're coastal Fort Myers all the way down to Marco Island. And we have beach communities, and we also have the river, the Caloosahatchee River that goes from the Lake O in the center of the state all the way down. So we are dealing with everything from hurricanes, climate change, sea level rise, beach erosion, red tide, blue-green algae, and pollution of all sorts coming up and down. And these are things that people are really worried about. We also have issues with aging infrastructure, poor drinking water quality, and historic environmental degradations in traditionally Black communities in our area. So these are hot button issues, everything from drinking water to beach water to river water. And what people really want to see is to make sure that these issues do not affect their livelihoods so that they don't have massive economic fall, output, not output, but fallout from when we do have things like red tide or blue-green algae, which, by the way, we've been so distracted, trying to save our lives from the coronavirus that we haven't even been realizing and paying attention to the dumping of the pollutants and the rays in the blue-green algae that has been happening in our backyard. So we're looking at another environmental calamity coming down the pipes for us here in Southwest Florida that can continue to erode our ability to bounce back from a crisis like this. So we need to hold polluters accountable, and we need to do more research on what needs to be done to mitigate things like blue-green algae and red tide and protect people's health. And then, of course, have things like universal basic income to help people get by when all of a sudden the economy drops out from underneath their feet.
Alan, and you are in Florida 17. Tell us what the kitchen table issues are in your district.
Well, being that I have 9 counties, each county has a different themed issue. Some of the counties that I represent border District 19 and Cindy's district. So as she was saying, the water issue is a very big issue, especially when we understand that out of all the water that exists in the world, only 1% of that water is fresh drinking water. And so we have companies like Mosaic Mining that is literally pouring tons and tons of waste directly into our aquifer. And so to have some of our fresh drinking water contaminated like that, it is a big problem. My opponent actually takes money from Mosaic Mining, and I won't take their money because when I get to Congress, I want to be able to write policy that can stop them from making those types of errors in our environment. Also, Lake Okeechobee is inside of my congressional district. We have a major environmental problem. And when I was growing up, Lake Okeechobee was one of Florida's marvels. And so now it's known as Pollution Lake. If you take an aerial view over the lake, you can literally see the sludge and the toxic situation that's in the water. And it's actually causing problems with marine life. And it's absolutely ridiculous. But there's other issues inside of the district. One is, also, my opponent is looking to dismantle the EPA. And when you have companies that is literally poisoning our environment, we need to have an EPA that can regulate those situations. We have a very large disabled community in District 17, and we know that members of Congress on the other side are constantly trying to take away disability benefits. We want to make sure that those benefits are protected for some of the people that are most vulnerable in our society. We also want to make sure that our immigration system is fixed, because right now we have people that are literally afraid to go to work out of fear of being deported. And that is causing a major problem, not only with crop production, but also when these people do get deported, some of these children are left to come home from school only to realize that their families have been deported out of the country. And then these American-born children end up in the foster care system, which is an already stressed out situation. We need to also understand that inside of District 17, that we have a major problem with veterans. Right now, there is at least 23 veterans that are committing suicide every day, and Florida has the highest rate of them. One of the policies that I want to push for in Congress is to make sure that when military professionals are getting ready to leave the military, that they have a protocol that gives them the treatment that they need prior to getting out, so that we don't end up with a situation like we had the other day where one of my constituents gave me a call and told me that he literally talked a gentleman out of committing suicide because his business began to fail during this COVID pandemic situation. And he talked him out of it, but 24 hours later, the stress was mounting and he ended up trying to take his life. And so, these are some real issues, and not very many politicians at this level are talking about it. And it's a real shame. And so, 9 counties, 9 different themed issues. No one county is exactly alike. We have a very large senior population here in Highlands County. We have a growing immigrant issue in Hardee County. We have corruption in these counties, and it's affecting working people. It's affecting the people that are trying to come up. So there's a lot of issues that we can talk about here. And there's no one. I believe this. I believe that as a candidate looking to become a representative, it's not on me to go to Congress and be like, this is what I'm going to do. I always tell people in our town halls and in our meetings that I need to understand what is on your mind, what issues are affecting you, because I'm looking to represent your interests, not mine. And so that's my fundamental stance on how we should move forward and really chart a new path forward.
Thank you, Alan. That's great. Mia, Maryland 1. Tell me about the kitchen table issues in Maryland 1. All right. And Mia, I also want to ask you as a LGBT veteran, how do you feel about Trump's hurtful transphobic policies? Huh? Excellent. Right. Thank you. Thank you for that. So I have a question from someone that's actually watching here. And it is, wait, hold on, let me find it. Okay, so this is actually from a former Trump supporter. And the question is, how can a Trump supporter like me help out in campaigns now that canvassing is no longer an option? Do you want to go through how people can help you out? Cindy, let's start with you.
Yeah, great. So yeah, go. So what really helps me, because like Mia said, I'm moved totally digital. Ways that people can help me is, Cold hard cash always helps a grassroots candidate. So you can check me out on ActBlue. But if that's not in the means, and I totally understand that that is not where everybody is, but we need people to phone bank for us. We need people to help share our social media content. So definitely follow me on Twitter at SWFLMom2020, Instagram, Facebook, same thing. That helps amplify my voice and make sure that I don't have to pay, for that advertising. But right now, it's all about that. We need people to volunteer to help review policy procedures, review, blog articles and things like that. But it's all this digital stuff that we need help with right now. So you can absolutely email me at vote@cindybanier.com.
Awesome. And Mia? Yes, and I will be posting all of your Twitter handles on my Twitter feed as soon as I finish this, and then feed the kids, and then I'll do it. Alan, how about you? How can people reach out and help your campaign?
Well, prior to COVID-19, most candidates were holding events, raising funds, and doing a lot of different types of things to help get the message out about the campaign. So getting the message out is extremely important. So I want to reiterate what both Mia and Cindy were saying, and that is the best way to help us reach more voters is to basically pay for boosting our campaigns on social media, pay for direct mailing, and paying for staff to make phone calls to help reach more voters that way. So making contributions is one of the best ways that you can help. The other thing that the Alan Ellison for Congress campaign is doing is that we understand that there is a growing movement of people that have supported the president in the past that have finally came to the other side of understanding that this individual is only looking out for self, cares absolutely nothing about anyone other than self, and really doesn't quite understand the role of our government from a domestic standpoint as well as from a foreign policy standpoint. And so what we're doing is we're tapping into that movement, because you're definitely not alone. And we're putting together a coalition of Republicans that are voting Democratic, as well as ex-Trump supporters who are going to vote against him because they found out that he wasn't what they thought he was. And we're going to be holding town hall meetings just like this so that you can have an opportunity to speak to why you decided to go in the other direction. I think more people in this country need to hear from people like you, because there are millions of people that were exactly where you were in the last election, but need to have that push, need to have the understanding, and really just the camaraderie of thinking that it's okay, and that you're not going to be a social outcast for voting against someone who has been really operating against the American people. And so I guess one of the ways they can, get involved with our campaign is go to AllisonForCongress.com. We're on Facebook at Alan Ellison for Congress Facebook. And from either one of those accounts, you can reach us through our contact information, campaign@AllisonForCongress.com, or make a contribution. And also, please consider making a contribution to No Dem Left Behind at NoDemLeftBehind.com.
That's great. Thank you. And, you know, I think that this is such a different time than the midterm elections. During the midterms, I felt like there were still candidates who were so worried to come out against the Trump administration in red districts. You know, and I feel like at this point, we have all earned the right to say, you know, this administration is not for the people. And as Democrats, like we've always done, we're going to protect each other with our vote, right? And with the policies that we put forth. And so I just want to ask Cindy and Alan, since you're both in Florida, how have you guys worked together to show that Florida can actually be flipped?
Well, one of the things that we've been doing is we've joined the No Dem Left Behind coalition, and through that effort, we're working together to bring about awareness and also doing some political action work, like getting out the vote campaigns and things of that nature, and fighting against the establishment here in Florida. Like, for example, to run for a federal office, the Constitution lays out the framework for who can qualify. But in the state of Florida, to pay a $10,440 ballot fee is actually something.
Oh, I think we lost him. Wait 1 second, Alan. Can you give us a little mic check?
Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
There you go. Perfect. You know, keep going.
So it's political action that we're engaging in. Cindy's a professor of American government, so she's tapped into the educational side of things. We've done events together. We've had roasts so that people can come out for the entertainment, but also in getting the entertainment, we disseminate the information.
Right.
And we've been working together for quite some time now. And the thing of it is that people have to understand that there are candidates that run for selfish reasons, and then there are candidates that are actually here trying to make life better. And so that's pretty much our message. That's what we put out. We would be doing this even if we were not running Congress, because we're both political scientists and this is what we do. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know. I don't know whose mic that is.
Not sure.
Testing.
But
marching on.
So I was going to add, yeah. So Alan joined the coalition. He's one of the 50 candidates across the state of Florida that's been battling the governor with me, and it's been fantastic. He's been, you know, getting other people on board to the coalition, especially early on. He was one of the first signatories, and it was the relationship that we had from No Dem Left Behind that helped that. He also learned how amazingly hilarious I am while I roasted him. Something also that my students at FGCU learn, and I, try to keep them engaged by, using, humor to get them to learn and care about not only our government, but global issues as well. Those are the classes I teach in the Department of Political Science. Alan came on my podcast too. I have a podcast called Dr. Cindy Speaks, which is a mishmash of having people. I've had a couple other folks from the No Dem Left Behind Coalition on there. But it's all about connecting out to people across this district. And I will tell you, back to what you're saying about, being worried being in a red district about coming out against Trump. I will tell you that very early in my campaign, which was in this nostalgic era called the fall of 2019, which really seems like a totally different world from where we are right now. But then I would say I was a little bit like, I got to play it a little nice. You know what I mean? But now, frankly, I'm ready to talk about everything. I am ready to talk about the utter complete corruption and failure that we have at the state level and at the federal level under Donald Trump and his buddy Ron DeSantis. I'm totally fine with talking about that because we have demonstrable evidence that they are killing people with their policy now. So I am not, I'm not trying to, keep anybody's feelings hurt now, from being hurt, because we have all this stuff to talk about. And we can talk about how important all these policies that Democrats have long been champions of are important to us. Like, we should fund public health. We should fund access to healthcare for everybody. We should fund, unemployment systems that, when people need them, you can apply for them and get them, which has been a huge problem in the state of Florida. We have almost 1 million people backlogged in our unemployment system because then Governor Rick Scott and now Senator Rick Scott decided that he would rather just build a system that is purposely not going to work so that he could have low numbers. And as a data scientist, that's horrifying to me. But I am so over this, we have ideological differences. No, we don't. We have a group of people who are working for themselves, like Alan said, and we have a group of people who are working for the people. And I'm over here ready to fight for the people.
Yay. Thank you, Cindy. Mia, did you get to say where people can help you or how people can help you? I don't think you did. Great. Thank you. We actually have a question for No Dem Left Behind. How did you get all the candidates to come together? Can't hear you. Are you muted?
How about now?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. So we went through a process of researching who would be the best candidates. So we were finding candidates who were in deep red districts, but who we believe still had a shot at winning. So anybody who we thought would be a good candidate had a path to victory, and we came up with these folks. It's a pretty exhausting process to figure out who should be a part of our coalition, because we want to include like-minded people while also remaining diversity. But basically we went through, identified the districts that we wanted to flip, and found the best candidate for that.
That's so awesome. I want to focus a little bit on specific issues. Let's talk a little bit on where you all stand on healthcare. Mia, do you want to start? Awesome. Alan?
I believe that Medicare for all should be a right. But not only that, I think that the entire healthcare system needs a complete overhaul. There was a time in the United States where doctors could actually be doctors and perform real medicine. Today, doctors not really able to spend the kind of time that they need with their patients to better help their patients understand the complexities of things that goes wrong with their bodies. And so I just think that we live in the greatest country in the world with the greatest access to resources, and there really isn't no excuse for not having a universal healthcare system. When you look at the fact that we spend more money than every country in the world with the military combined, and the majority of those funds are not going to our veterans or our military professionals, and they're going to defense contracting firms. I think that if we were to even cut our defense budget in half, we would still be spending more than every other country in the world with the military. And so there is a lot of wasteful spending that we could redirect to make sure that we do have quality, affordable, or universal healthcare in this country.
And Cindy.
Yeah, absolutely. Healthcare is a big issue for me. I've lived in 2 countries with universal healthcare system, and it's fantastic. Japan and Taiwan. Taiwan, which by the way is knocking it out of the park in terms of their pandemic response. So we could learn a thing or two around that. But I also come from the healthcare discussion as the mother of a child who had a rare blood disease and was immune compromised and has, needed to be in the hospital for extended periods of stay. And while she was in the hospital fighting for her life, I was fighting the insurance companies to get her coverage. And that's a horrifically disgusting way for Americans to live. You should not be fighting to save your child's life, with the insurance company. They were denying her treatments. They were denying her coverage. She had one trip that was $1 million. And I'm not even sure that she would have gotten the treatment she got, the life-saving treatment, if we didn't have Obamacare. And they make these decisions in the ER and in the ICU depending on what kind of care you have. And if we do not have a basic level of coverage for everybody, you can assure that there are people who are dying. And we see that in our system with the health discrepancies that exist between people of color and the outcomes for white people as well. And that has a lot to do with the access to care, the access to insurance, and the decisions that are being made at that time, because the hospitals cannot get reimbursed for certain procedures depending on what kind of insurance somebody has. And this is not a way that we should, as Americans, expect it to be. And I think what we don't realize is that when we do have countries around the world and they have universal coverage and you can just go to the hospital when you're sick, what a difference it makes for your economy, your productivity, and even things like your pandemic response. It can be achieved in the United States through offering universal care to everybody at an affordable rate and by having cost savings and cost setting for all procedures, top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you could get have your appendix removed in California and have it removed in Connecticut, and it would be 2 totally different fees.
You can get your appendix removed in the same hospital and have 2 different health insurances, right, and it's 2 different fees. That's how crazy our system is.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I just think it just needs to be simplified. Mm-hmm. Let's take care of each other. And I think that's across the board. I think we have made things so complicated in this country. And a lot of that has to do with, lobby groups. But I think that the if we can just get back down to the basics of taking care of each other and what that means for our health, for the environment, for the safety of our children in schools, education. I mean, it shouldn't be this difficult to give the people of this country a better life. I want to also bring up, in Florida, especially with Cindy and Alan, you both have had, 2 of the biggest mass shootings in history. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about gun violence. And Mia, obviously being a veteran, you can contribute to this in a unique way, having, actually been assigned weapons of war. Cindy, where are you with gun violence and what needs to happen?
Well, I'm a proponent of sensible gun laws. I'm not a gun person. It's not something that is important to me, but I understand that some people like to have them for their self-defense and for shooting recreationally. However, I think that we need to be careful and understand what happens in those circumstances. If you have a gun in your home, you're more likely to be successful in suicide. If you have a gun in your home, women are more likely to be killed because of, by domestic violence, and just on and on and on, or by accident. So I think that we just need to be careful about that and make laws that are related to ensuring that people who have weapons are prepared to use them and are safe in the way that they store them. I think that we have to make sure that we are not allowing our weapons to fuel wars around the world, which is absolutely a true scenario as well. And I think that we need to be cognizant of how we allow weapons to get into hands of people who are volatile as well. We have red flag laws, and we should continue to have laws like that to prevent people who have a history of, domestic violence and other red flags from getting weapons, to prevent mass shootings like we've seen in Florida and around the world. Around the United States, not around the world, in the United States.
Thanks, Cindy. Alan?
Yeah, I believe in, sensible gun ownership, but I also believe in making sure that people are safe. We have too much gun violence in this country. We should be looking at policies that strengthen background checks, make them more universal. In some states, the laws are a little bit relaxed, and then people are able to get these guns and then go into other states. I think that we need to do a better job of regulating some of these sites where people get guns, websites, as well as those auction venues where they're able to, go to venues and get them. We could do a lot. It just really boils down to people understanding, do we want to have a safer environment, or do we just want to live like life on the OK Corral? I mean, we have evolved since the Wild Wild West. And during the Wild Wild West, there were terms like, if you live by the gun, you die by the gun. And life expectancy was very low. Gun violence was extremely high. But I thought, that we evolved from that time period. But just recently in this county where I'm living in now, they tried to pass a sanctuary city amendment to, a piece of policy. And it's sad because the media, especially Fox News, they're doing a great deal of work to try to convince people that Democrats are looking to take away their guns. Well, here's the thing. I don't know of a Democrat that's trying to take away anyone's guns, but I do know that most Democratic platforms are trying to make people more safe from gun violence. And I think that you can have a life of duality. You can have both. You can have sensible gun owners, and you can also have regulation that keeps guns out of the hands of people that should not have it. I always hear the saying, guns don't kill people, people kill people. Well, actually, they both do, because guns go off all the time and kill people. And I believe that there should be a line drawn on weapons of mass destruction. I mean, because if a person feels like they can get an assault rifle, which is a weapon of mass destruction that should be for the military, then what about nukes? Can people just go and buy a nuke? And just because they feel like they want to have an arm? I mean, arms are short for armament, which was designed for military. And so, people really need to have a better understanding of the Constitution, when it was written, why it was written, and know where we are today and how we should be conducting ourselves. We have a professional military. We don't need people thinking that they're going to protect the country that are not in the military. We have law enforcement agencies. We have a ton of them. We have, the FBI, the ATF, the Sheriff's Department, Highway Patrol, police departments. We don't need people thinking that they can become law enforcement like our current congressman that I'm looking to unseat. I had a debate with him at a church, and he didn't show up to the debate because he couldn't bring his gun inside of the church. Our second debate, he brought his gun to the debate. What kind of thinking do you have where you feel so threatened or pressured that you need to have a gun in a church. I think people should be safe in churches. People should be safe in these schools. And the argument on the other side is, well, if a person's going to come in with a gun, then we should be armed as well. No, this is what they used to do back in the OK Corral in the Wild Wild West, and you know, all this need for guns, it just only gets death, more death. And so you know, we really need to have some you know, some heart-to-heart conversations, some true discussions, and we really need to get the NRA out of politics, because a lot of these politicians know better, but like a lot of politicians, they follow the money and they do what the money says do. And so this is another reason why I don't take money from special interest groups like that, because when you do, you lose your voice. You can't write policies that could actually change life for the better and increase the quality of life for everyone.
And Mia, where are you on gun violence? I think that makes a lot of sense. That would be super smart policy. So we're gonna wrap it up here, and I have one more sort of question for all of you. I'd like to just hear why people should vote for you. Let's start with you, Cindy.
All right, thanks. You know, I think that I am the best person to be able to flip this district from red to blue. I am a regular person. You know, I've been working in this community. My kids live here. They go to the public schools here. I have a small business here. And I'm not somebody who's just taken money or throwing their own money because they don't have anything better to do into this race. They should vote for me because I am really connected to this community, committed to this community. I'm also extremely qualified, by the way. I've written and published several books and peer-reviewed journal articles on how to make government policy work for people. So aside from the funny face, you know what I mean, I actually know what I'm talking about. And so I'm somebody who's committed to the community, qualified to make policy that's both efficient and effective, and can actually reach out to people across the aisle to make things work, just like I've done with this bipartisan coalition across the state of Florida. And I know that I will be here to listen to people, unlike any other representative has even ever tried to in this district. So that's why people should vote for me, because not only can I flip this district, but I'm going to be somebody who will work tirelessly for the people and not the powerful.
Thank you, Cindy. Alan.
2018, I came into the election on a special election situation. There was a candidate that passed away 30 days before the election. And so I put my name in the hat to run against 3 other candidates, and I ended up winning 52% of the vote. It left me 28 days to campaign against a state senator who was running for the US Congress, who had been campaigning for a year. I nearly got 40% of the vote, and my name wasn't even on the ballot. That spoke volumes to the kind of campaign that we were running. My campaign is about improving the quality of life for everyone, not just a select few. Our campaign message reaches across party aisles, and we are the only campaign that actually has a platform designed specifically for people living with a disability. We have a campaign that is putting together petitions to become bills to help veterans get the treatment that they need so that they don't end up in a situation where they're forced to commit suicide just to try to, get insurance money for their families and things of that nature. I am the best candidate. I was raised in Highlands County, Florida. I was raised in Hardee County. I was born in Highlands County, and I worked for 10 years in Polk County, where I got my degree in political science, which is 3 of the counties out of the 9 counties. So I am the native son of the 17th district. I grew up picking oranges, working with my dad on cars. So I'm just an everyday guy. I just happen to have, a mindset to want to do more, to help people, to help improve the quality of life for everyone. So I've been here my whole life. I know the issues, I know the people, and I want to make sure that people understand that there's only one candidate that can truly connect, that can truly understand. And I didn't just get here just 2 years ago. I've been here my whole life. And so if you want the best candidate that can speak to the issues that matter most to you, there's only one in this race, and that's me.
Thank you, Alan. And Mia, why should people vote for you? Great. Well, thank you all so much for all of your work and your service and for joining us tonight. And everyone that is watching at home, I'd like to suggest that you go to nodemleftbehind.com. Follow No Dem Left Behind on Twitter at NDLB 2020. Also on Facebook, they're No Dem Left Behind. And I will be posting everyone's Twitter handle that participated in this town hall tonight. Thank you all so much. And please stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thanks,
much.
Alyssa, for hosting us. We appreciate it. Thank you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Alyssa.
Thanks,
If
friends.
you need anything,
And to
let me
everybody
know.
who's watching, we're also hosting another town hall in the next 2 weeks, one hosted by Scott Borgen and one hosted by Katie Hill. So be sure to tune into those as well.
Yay!
Thanks, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Have a great evening. Stay safe.
I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress here on Maryland's Eastern Shore. One of the biggest concerns and issues that we have is our traffic, our education, our health care, and our civil rights that are being taken away by our representative that is currently in office. And I seek to change that as an LGBT candidate. I'm Mia Mason. I'm Mia Mason. I'm running for Congress. Our voters are at the helm in 2020 because our education has failed us. Our infrastructure has failed us. With your driving force, we can fix that, especially in our healthcare, because your vote actually matters and you have the choice in 2020. I'm Mia Mason, and I approve this message.